people? We are back. And we are back presenting a wonderful opportunity about mentoring. Hey there, welcome. It is so good to see you all back in this space. I am excited to be able to come to you to present a series of discussions to help us all find our greatness on this journey. Good evening. My name is Anita Pierce, and I'm the principal owner of 11375. We are an organization that is certified as a minority women business enterprise that provides technical assistance, strategy, virtual online service, and much more. Please check us out, like us, follow us on YouTube, Instagram, and also at 11375.com. We will be happy to be able to provide services to you and your organization to get to your next level. Today, we are presenting a topic that I'm sure, in the midst of all that's happening, maybe not at top of mind, but our topic for today is, do you need an OG in your life? Let's talk about it. No, it's not an original gangster, although many have inboxed me and, have so wonderfully stated to me that, yeah, I need a gangster in my life. But no, that's not what we're going to talk about this evening. We are going to unpack the importance of mentoring. We are going to pretty much unpack the importance of having an original guardian in your life and some of the resources that are available to those who are interested in becoming a mentor to anyone, particularly within Black and Brown communities. But before we get started, I would like to put out a few friendly reminders at the top of this discussion. First of all, one thing I will state is that if our vote wasn't important, then it wouldn't be aim to suppress it. While I am not advocating for a specific political party, I am advocating about the importance of exercising your civic engagement right to vote. There are so many things that I personally believe that we can change systematically if we show up at the polls and vote. Not only voting, but also being counted in the census this year. Participating in the census is not about your immigration status. It's not about being in your business. It's not about knowing, what type of things that are personal, but it's about ensuring that there is a proper count within our communities. And I can tell you, I totally understand that it takes a lot, especially since we all are coping with the everyday traumatic experiences, with COVID, with job loss and other, and yet our vote and being counted in the census is just as important. So please take a moment, if you have not done so already, to make sure that you are a part of the count until we change the laws. Those laws still exist and that they are important. So my 2-minute spiel about our civic engagement. And now I come from an era of being an OG is defined as being an original gangster. However, for this particular discussion, we are defining an OG as an original guardian, someone who can be a resource, a life guide, a quick point of reference, and sometimes and oftentimes a gap filler. For many who have parents that may have passed away, that individual now becomes a guide to help them through their life's journey. An OG can be someone as a young person, an OG can be an older person, an OG can be someone who can be used as a mid-career experience in life at all levels. I want to take an opportunity to introduce for this discussion two wonderful people, Mr. Engy Lamour and Mr. Stephen Joseph. They are coming to us as experienced OGs. They are coming to us as one who will be able to help us unpack our discussion. So I am going to pass the mic to Mr. Stephen Joseph to introduce himself, and then I'm going to follow up with Mr. Engy Lamour to describe who he is.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for having me. This is absolutely incredible. My name is Stephen Joseph. I'm the manager of corporate and community engagement here at Imentor. My work really focuses on connecting with different companies and organizations across New York City in order to get their networks activated as volunteer mentors in our program. However, my passion is really deeply embedded in the community. You know, growing up near South Jamaica, Queens, I really understood the importance of what it means to have someone to look up to, someone to be your kind of guiding North Star. And just coming to Imentor really helped to solidify that. And I was just so happy to see that there was an organization that was focused on this level of work, especially as someone who identifies as a Black man. You know, the cards are always stacked up against us. So it's really important to have someone who has succeeded to help pay it back and also pay it forward. So I'm just really excited to be here, and I'm just so grateful to be able to talk about my experience in mentorship and what it means to be a part of Imentor. So yeah, I'm just really excited for this conversation.
Great. It's a pleasure to be here. Thank you, Anita, for inviting me. So my name is Engy Lamour. I'm the Senior Vice President at Reigns International, a human capital consulting firm, where we are matching talent with the right companies. One of the reasons I chose to be a part of this program tonight is because I'm a product of mentors helping me throughout my entire life, from high school up until now. There's not a step I've taken from high school to college to graduate school to every single opportunity has been presented before me without consulting with a mentor. So I think people don't understand the value of having the right mentors in your lives and the way they could be like your North Star, your guiding light.
And I am Anita Pierce, again, a product of having wonderful OGs in my life. So let's unpack this conversation, because I think that, you know, when we are thinking about, you know, original guardians, mentors, sponsors, I actually want to start with you, Stephen, about really understanding what is a mentor from the perspective of being in your role.
Yeah, you know, and thinking about what mentorship is, it's very much an all-encompassing definition. And it really is what you make of it depending on your environment, your life choices, your circumstances. You know, at Imentor, we're really thinking about what it means to mentor a student and get them through high school and the post-secondary environment. And, you know, so many students in our program who identify as Black Latinx, who come from under-resourced and lower-income communities, it is not because they're lazy or they're lacking in ambition, but there's a large systemic barrier that's keeping them from getting to where they want and need to be. So in thinking about what mentorship is in the context of this program, you know, it's really about giving them the skills, tools, and resources to have that conversation, to really know what it means to step into those spaces. And it is not even just the regiment of the curriculum, but it's also just being a champion and an advocate for our students. They just need someone to stand behind them and push them forward, stand next to them and guide them, you know, stand in front of them and help them lead. And it's really such a poignant interaction when you see mentors and mentees come together, even in a formal setting or even in an informal setting, in which you can say, wow, I've developed such a poignant relationship with this young person. And now I see a bit of myself in them when I was younger, and it's my responsibility to help lead them to levels of success in which I've now been able to experience. Because in a way, it is important to pay it forward as well as give back. So many of us come from, again, these under-resourced and low-income communities, and many of us have been able to succeed and step out of those dangerous environments. And it's important for us to help our mentees unlock those resources as well. So even just bringing it back to Imentor, this is really the crux of our program. You know, mentorship is a very old school model, but it is a model that works. When you're actually dedicating and committing time to a student, it really does make such a huge difference in terms of their overall trajectory. So for me, that's how I really think about and define mentorship.
And the same question to you, Mr. Lamour. What are your thoughts and views about what mentoring actually is?
You know, from my personal experience, like I don't think I would be here if it wasn't for mentors. You know, I didn't get into details about my background, but I was born in Haiti, raised in Brooklyn. My grandmother raised me. She didn't speak English. But at a very early age, I decided I wanted to go to Wall Street. I was fortunate enough to figure out a way to get my first internship at 15 on Wall Street. But to Stephen's point, the unwritten rules that, some people in our communities don't really understand or don't know how to address. So my first year was my first internship was a struggle because I didn't understand, the dress code. How do you walk into a meeting? Like how do you address someone via email? And those are unspoken words that you're not going to learn in like high school or college, where a mentor is going to be the person that pulls you aside and say, hey, you shouldn't wear a red shirt to work. And that happened back when I was 15, 16. But little things like that made a difference. Having the exposure to be in a board meeting and understand how people carry themselves, or going out on a client dinner, understanding how to order. Those are little things that mentors do help you with. It's basically, going to spring training before you're ready for the big game. So I think for me, like I said, every step of the way, I found a mentor to kind of like, help me out and understand like how do you finagle a bagel in this environment when you didn't come from like, the boarding school. You weren't, you're the social quote unquote outcast because you don't come from a similar social economic background. How do you adjust? How do you not be the angry black guy? So I think mentors are the ones that, behind the scenes you kind of confide in and they help you navigate. Like one of my favorite books is The Odyssey, and the word mentor comes from the Odyssey, where mentor is the one that's, taking Telemachus on his journey on the Odyssey. So that's my nerdy fun fact about reading.
It's not really a nerdy fun fact. It's about passing along the information. So not really a nerd. It's a part of the norm. So I just want to add in, just about, the importance of, what mentoring means specifically for me. In a nutshell, it's about paying it forward, period. When I think about, my coming up, to Engy's point, also to Stephen's point as well, without having someone to guide you through, whatever it may be in your life, I know I'm a pure product of someone, looking at me and saying, you know what, you kind of need to be tweaking, some of, what's happening in your life or in your space. So I can definitely agree with all that's being said today about the importance of, and really understanding the impact of it. And most of my relationships that came out of guiding someone wasn't formal. Mine came purely organic. So with this particular topic today, we have, Imentor here, who is a actual formal mentoring program, that will help us to be able to unpack, a number of things that we need to realize as it relates to mentoring. So I'm going to ask this next question. Why do you believe that mentoring is important, especially now? So I'll start with Engy this time.
I think, especially for me, most recently I took on a new role, more senior leadership role, recently graduated from Columbia Business School. And the higher you get up as an African-American man, you start to have this sense of imposter syndrome. And as opposed to going out and seeking out someone that can help you, like, understand what you're going through in your head, like, can I do this? Can I not do this? And for me, I feel like I would just stay in my head. That's why I seek out mentors, folks who have done it before me, that trailblaze before me. It's not to say that I'm gonna follow every exact step that they've made, but they've done it. They've experienced the same things that I will probably go through. Like, well, can I build this budget? Can I hire people? Can I really lead? So I think for us, the more higher up you go in your career, that imposter syndrome is a real thing. And it takes someone, like your coach, your mentor is your coach, seeing the entire field to tell you, go up this way, go up that way. So I think that's the importance of a mentorship for me, even at this point in my life.
Yeah, that's incredible to mention. I think for me, even when I was a young teenager, I had my own personal mentor who had moved to Georgia, and thinking about his work ethic and how he approached life, it was as if he was the CEO of 500 companies. The way in which he handled the environment around him, it was absolutely just mind-boggling. And the way in which he would impart wisdom to me would be, in a way, kind of harsh, but it was almost a reality telling me have like almost come to God moment. And the way in which he told me to, one, advocate for myself, because when that imposter syndrome kicks in, it can kind of make you retreat into yourself. And he told me to hold myself accountable for advocating for myself. And no matter what space I enter, I know it's important for me to advocate for myself, because if not, my wishes and my needs and my goals and my desires will not come into fruition. And it's speaking those things into existence. Yeah, continue.
I would say that's a great word, advocacy.
Yeah.
Years ago when I was working for a firm where I didn't think I could make a leap to like one of the big firms. That particular mentor said to me, like, Engy, I've worked with you. I know your style. It's time for you to like get off the farm team and join the big leagues. And it took him saying that to me to do that. And before I make any move, we sit down and ask him the same thing, like, what do you think about this? And I still use this mentality. It's like, what is the base case, worst case, best case, any situation that you're going to go into. So if it had not been for that person telling me, like, get off the farm team, join the big leagues, I wouldn't be right. I wouldn't have applied to Columbia Business School. I wouldn't have applied, took a shot at the bigger firm. But I'm glad you said that, because you said you have to advocate for yourself. So advocacy is a great word that you just used.
Exactly. Thank you for that. Yeah, it's just super important, especially, again, for us as Black men. As you said, as we start to go up the ladder in terms of our professional careers, there are less of us that look like us. And we need to continue to advocate for ourselves, for one, our own self-preservation, but also so we can pave the way for those who come after us. And mentorship is that philosophy in action. It's so incredible to see, even in my current role, where there are so many incredible Black leaders at Imentor who I absolutely admire, who I look up to, and I'm like, I need to like pick their brains. I need to know what they're doing. I need to know how they're thinking. And they've just been so open to imparting so much incredible wisdom to me. And now whenever I navigate these spaces, I don't have to sit in a meeting and have to be battling myself and thinking, well, I don't know why I'm here. Do I even deserve to be here? Should I even be in this space? Where now they've said, look, you're in this space for a reason, right? So you should speak with that reason. You should speak with that conviction. And, in the overall body of mentorship, those are one of the key components, self-advocacy. Because again, as we navigate those spaces, there may be points where we're going to be challenged. And there may be points where we're going to want to do things for ourselves. And someone's going to say, oh, I don't know about that. Should you reconsider it? And it's like, no, actually, I'm going to stand 10 toes down and I'm going to do what I want to do. And that's because someone who saw something in me told me that I have the potential to do so.
So I'm going to add in, because right now, there are multiple layers of what we are defining as mentoring, right? So right now, what you both are landing on is having, advocates, sponsors within a corporation. So I was wondering if you would both be able to unpack and define that for our audience, to the difference between having a mentor within the corporation. Again, if you are looking for someone to tag team at a professional level, and then understanding what a sponsor is. And I think that you both are hitting on it, but I want to be able to clearly define for our audience, one, what is a mentor internally within the workforce? And also two, what is a sponsor? Because they're kind of two different definitions, if you don't mind.
Happy to jump in. This is going to be a free plug for Carla Harris. I think when I was in my earlier days, like one of the best books I read about, that distinction was Carla Harris's book, Prose of Wisdom. And where she talks about what's the difference between having a mentor and having a sponsor, right? And Steve, I think you touched on this. That mentor is going to be harsh on you. That mentor is not supposed to be your friend. They're going to tell you how it is. And for you, that's the person that, in the corporate world, we say, that's your rabbi kind of thing, right? You can go to with any challenges in situations. Now, the sponsor is the person that you've done great work for, that's going to, be an advocate behind the scenes. Like, you need a sponsor, the person that's talking about you when you're not in those meetings. When those promotion discussions come up, you need that person to say, Steven was awesome. Like, we need to focus on it. It's kind of like your sports agent. That's what a sponsor is. A sponsor needs to be the person where that assignment is going to get you visibility, at the top of the house between the CEO or the top client, that sponsor needs to be the one saying like, I know Steven can do it. We should put Steven on that project. Where, you get on that project and there's going to be some some friction with team members. You go to the mentor and talk about the friction and how do you solve it in a judicious way. So that to me, in the corporate environment, the difference between like having a mentor and having, that sponsor. Like, to use a boxing analogy, right? It's like your mentor is like Mickey in your corner. Your sponsor is the guy that's going to get you the booking. Make sure you show up. You show up and you get paid.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, that's great to mention. Like, even within Imentor, in terms of staff, we even have our own internal mentorship program. And even when times get tough, you have your mentor to go to, in which you can have those very confidential conversations. Say, hey, look, I'm having a tough time right now. My pathway is not totally clear. I just need some guidance. And like Engy mentioned, they'll sometimes just be very real with you and say, this is what you need to be thinking about. This is how you have to keep it 100% with them. And, a lot of times when you experience difficult situations at work or even at school, you kind of don't know where to go. But your mentor who's already been there is already there to kind of say, look, I've been there. I feel you. I felt it. And this is what I found. And it really helps to clear that pathway, especially since, even with my personal mentor, he would always just be like, just advocate. And I'm like, well, I don't know. Is that going to cause too many problems? He's like, if it causes problems, that means you're doing a good job, because you're going to cause more problems for yourself if you don't speak up and if you don't speak out. And
I have a funny story about a particular situation.
Let's hear it.
Another mentor, like Anita knows who this person is because I actually met. So most people don't realize I've known Anita since I was in high school. I was fortunate enough to receive a scholarship from one of her organizations and kind of latched on. And I met an individual who's in the finance business when I was, 18, and he's been a friend for the last 20 years. And when I was in my 20s, like mid-20s, working, I told him, look, I'm working really hard. I want to get this promotion. Just keep my head down. He looks at me like, who told you just keep your head down is going to get you in? Like, knows what you're doing. If you're not advocating for yourself, you're not going to get that promotion. It's great that you work hard to keep your head down, but you're not going to get anywhere just doing that. And that one piece of information, like that, it just clicked. I'm like, holy crap, he's right. I've been doing the same thing for 5 years. No one's noticed. So you're right about mentors like pushing you. Like, he wasn't nice about it, but he's still a friend to this day.
Right. And I think one of the most poignant things that my former Ask Mentor that moved to Georgia when I was a teenager, he said, if you keep your head down, you'll never get a leg up. And I was like, oh, wait a minute. I need to write that down. And I've always paid that, because I'm like, yeah, I always need to keep my head up because that's where I need to go. That's how I need to look at it. And even when it comes to mentoring high school students, a lot of times they don't really know how to navigate all of these situations, all of these environments. So even when we're thinking about Imentor, we're saying, look, we're going to help you advocate for yourself. We're going to teach about growth mindset. We're going to teach about networking and all these key skills, because this is how you're going to keep your head up and see the pathway forward, so that way you can actually get that leg up.
Yeah. In my business, we do what we call executive coaching. Only difference is the name. It's no longer called executive coaching, where you're coaching senior executives and CEOs. How do they get the best out of themselves? How do they figure out these problems? Like, it's executive coaching is nothing more than mentoring. It's the same thing.
Exactly.
And so we will pivot just a little bit. And just because, side note, just because Engy said he's known me since high school doesn't mean I've aged a bit. Hashtag I still got it.
She still got it.
I still got it. He always liked to throw me out there that he knew me since high school. I'm like, I don't know what you're talking about, sir.
It's the throwing under the bus for me.
So I wanted to continue the conversation because this is very, healthy, in terms of, mentoring, the importance of it, particularly now. But I want to just pivot the discussion just a little bit about representation and the importance of your mentors, right? So while we are talking about, this is a panel full of individuals of beauty and color. And I want to think about, because along the paths, I have had mentors that don't particularly look like me. And there's a sometimes when you've had those who actually look like you, actually are willing to pull you up a little bit more, and then you have those that don't look like you, that you can still get information and resources and tips and tools from. So I wanted to throw that out there about the importance of representation as it relates to your mentor, your sponsor, your OG. So I wanted to throw that out there to whoever wants to bite at that first.
Ooh, all right, let's put that on the table. So, I mean, when we're talking about people who have the same backgrounds and experiences as you, it really helps to close a gap that we were not thinking about in terms of those experiences. Being someone who is Haitian, who grew up near South Jamaica, Queens, just having someone whose experience is closely aligned with mine, it already helps to alleviate some of the conversation, especially when it comes to how we interact and engage with each other. A lot of the formalities are kind of not there anymore, because now we can just say, this is where we come from. This is how our experiences are so closely aligned with each other. I'll even say, for example, I was a mentor at Imentor myself, along with being staff. And my mentee, he actually lived about 10 minutes away from me before I moved into my new apartment. And it helped us, establish such a strong relationship from there, because every time we, hang out, we'd be like, oh, did you hear about what happened, at the Kentucky Fried Chicken spot on Basie Boulevard? And be like, oh yeah, that's where the Q85 bus stop is. And you already have an idea of those experiences. Now you already have an idea of the community which centers those experiences. And now you can say, okay, we're having these conversations. I know about where you've been, because our experiences are so similar. And this is what I can offer you in terms of advice and in terms of mentorship. And overall, even at Imentor, we identify, even in terms of the importance of college and post-secondary access and success, having someone who has been there, who looks like you, who comes from the same community as you. So many students, unfortunately, do not see themselves in these spaces of success. They do not see themselves in these, pristine office spaces. They do not see themselves, in these C-level careers. Again, it's not because they're lazy or they're lacking in ambition, but there is a larger systemic barrier that's keeping them from getting to where they want and need to be. Now, if they see someone who has either comes from the same community as them, comes from, the same train stop as them, they probably went to the same middle school or something of that sort. There is some community and previous commonality. Now they're like, actually, if my mentor could get there, I could get there too. So let me see what's up. Let me see how I could get there. And you're already like breaking what could be those intergenerational cycles of poverty that really plague so many of our communities. And that's what we're really thinking about here at Imentor, is really how can we elevate our students with people that look exactly like them.
Yeah, I think for me, I've been fortunate enough where I was part of a couple of after-school programs where, for me, ignorance was bliss. And it started out where I had diverse mentors early on, from folks coming to the after-school program that were hedge fund managers. I didn't even know how to spell hedge fund or know what a hedge fund was, but, there was this commonality of between me and these people. And that kind of pushed me to strive to go to schools that folks didn't look like me. So I kind of got comfortable with that. But once I got into the professional world, I did, seek out, individuals that look like me, because that blissful ignorance I used to have was gone. Because now I started noticing things like, well, I don't fit this rubric, this construct. I didn't go to this school, I don't talk like this. I don't summer this place. And seeking out people that were more successful that looked like me was paramount. And again, I have another anecdote of a mentor who was very successful in his field at a hedge fund, and we talked. We just talked about Jay-Z. We talked about how he got from UPenn to Goldman. We talked about his trappings of success. The watches, the house, whatever. he wasn't saying that to you know, like make it like a glorified like hip hop song. Like, it was like, look, you can get this too. But before I did any of these things, we bought a house. So we have investment property. I bought my parents a house. We paid off our student debt. And that's when we can have these things. And they're not, don't look at this as like, you know, a liability. They're an asset. So because he said that to me, I'm like, oh my God, like I can have these things. I shouldn't be ashamed. Like I can strive for more. And we were actually talking about watches, and he had a very expensive watch. I'm like, I was trying to hide my watch because it was like, you know, a $90 watch or $60, whatever it was. It was nothing fancy. It's like I started there too, dude. Don't worry, just work hard and you'll get there. So for me, because this person looked like me, he was impeccably dressed. Like, you know, it's like, oh my God, like, but at the same time, we could switch and just, we just talking about like Jay-Z, start talking about, you know, DC and Brooklyn. And like, it was great because you felt comfortable. Like the conversation felt organic as opposed to like me being rigid. I could be honest about like, you know, what was going on at work, like how I'm trying to like, you know, get to the next level, not knowing how to do it, and say, hey, have you thought about this? Have you spoke to this person? And that's when for me, like, you know, the representation really mattered because I didn't feel like I had to fake the funk anymore, you know?
Yep, I think that's a good point. Like faking the funk is really what's going to be the inhibitor when it comes to thinking about yourself and thinking about success. And having someone that looks exactly like you, there is no funk to fake. It's 110% authentic interactions. And you can, you know, transition from being super formal in different settings to just being super casual because you have those same experiences as your mentor.
Mm-hmm.
And so the question about representation, what about those who don't particularly look like us, right? So you both hit on the point about how easy it is to have conversations. What about for those who don't look like us? You know, are they omitted from the table, or is this really about, you know, getting a comfort level that we need? Because oftentimes, you know, we may be able to get, you know, some of the additional leg up from another culture first, right? Sometimes first before we actually can get through to ourselves. I mean, what are your thoughts about that?
Yeah, I think I started like, you know, I said I was fortunate enough to like, you know, be part of after school program where my initial mentors didn't look like me, didn't come from our communities. You know, I said they were hedge fund managers that, and again, I was in high school, I didn't know what a hedge fund manager was, right? But they cared. They saw something in me and a couple of my friends, and they were genuine. To this day, they're still my mentors. And this, you know, I don't want to make this a conversation where like we feel like, you know, as a mentor we have to omit, you know, a whole race of people, because I think I did get great opportunities where people that didn't look like me, they just saw like the work ethic and agreed with like, you know, our philosophy. So this mentorship shouldn't be about like just race, right? It doesn't have to be like, oh, because they look like me, they're gonna be my mentor. Sometimes it's not the case. Unfortunately, even in my industry, like the folks that look like you sometimes don't want to be mentors, and it's a sad truth. And the person that doesn't look like you will take more of an invested interest and help you get on that project, that assignment that you should have gone on, but unless somebody like, you know, advocated for you that looked like them but didn't like you, you wouldn't be on it. So I don't want this to be like mentorship shouldn't be about a race thing. It should be like, you know, do I genuinely want to help someone, you know, be the best version of themselves? Do I genuinely want to give back as a mentor? I should be.
Yeah.
Should be
Yeah, that's a great point. You know, I think for me, the importance is learning. You know, there is a level of learning that must take place if there are two different identities, which also helps to create, you know, an even stronger experience together. You know, in terms of mentors who do not share the same identities as their mentees, now this is a space for them to come to understanding and come to learning. And I absolutely love that because, you know, for so many of our white mentors who are super passionate about this work, we at Imentor really developed this space for them to learn about what it means to be a stronger educational advocate, what it means to actually pay it forward to, you know, their mentees. So I think, like you said, Engy, they are now being given this opportunity to provide these resources to their students. We have so many incredible mentors from so many diverse backgrounds, from so many different industries who come in and they're like, I'm here because I have a passion. I'm here because I have a want and I have a need. what can I do to see my students succeed? And that just rhymed. But it's just really important to call that out, especially when you may have a mentee whose backgrounds, identities, and experiences may be different than you. And I think learning across lines of difference is such a beautiful thing, because as you start to grow and develop with your mentee, you're also on this journey with them. And there's also the shared reciprocity of knowledge and cultural awareness and just like experiences that are now being elevated, because now I can say, I'm going to approach this relationship with an open mind and see where this takes me. And more often than not, they're being taken to such a more poignant place in their relationship with their mentee, and not just with their mentee, but as themselves personally.
So thank you both for your views and unpacking that. So I'm gonna, just pivot to another question. Because now I'm curious, because with mentoring I believe becomes accountability and responsibility. My perception. I know that from the relationships that I've had, I was not in a formalized program. I actually had the opportunity to be able to serve in a leadership capacity as a president of a trade association, where we were supporting individuals with scholarships. Thus how I met Engy, thus how I met Tamara, thus how I met a number of other now adult individuals. And the one thing that I can think of is that, since our relationship was organic, I can think of that there were times that I was stressed because they were telling me things that I wasn't sure I was ready for, or I wasn't prepared for. So I wanted to ask a question about, are there, from a formalized perspective of the mentoring relationship, are there any negatives that can come with taking on the responsibility and accountability for this is from having a young person? Because I've had different stages in my life where I've had young people. I still am like a young person magnet even now. And then, on a professional entrepreneurial level, I am now gaining the support and trust of individuals who are looking to have me as their coach, right? AKA their OG, or AKA their, business supporter or coach as well. So I wanted to just really talk about, are there any negatives, if there are any? I don't know who wants to talk about,
I'll jump in. So I think about mentorship like two buckets, right? The informal mentorship, where there's an individual, a young person that seeks it out and they're ambitious. They're going to find these people. That's the easy route, right? Because as the mentor, if this person sorts you out, what you have to do is kind of like provide that knowledge, provide that insight, and do no harm, right? Kind of like a doctor's treatment. But then like there's and I've done both. And then there's like the more structural, I want to join this organization and be a mentor. And with that, there may be some students that weren't necessarily thinking about that route, about like, finding a mentor, and that they're part of this organization, and it's kind of pushed on them. They don't realize they need one. Now, with my experience and my wife's experience, we're both mentors. We were part of, structured organizations. And, so far we've been talking about the positives of being a mentor. But sometimes, you may mentor kids from like, underserved communities, and their issues aren't, how do I get to college in 4 years? The issues are, mental health issues, abuse issues, like, homelessness issues. And as a mentor that's going through these, like, this structural platform, you may not be equipped to like, address those issues. And, I've experienced, my wife's experience, it's like, how do you answer someone that says, I'm thinking about committing suicide?
Right.
And that's the dark side of like, mentorship. But, but if you're doing it for the right reasons and you really want to be there, you just can't turn away from it. You have to like kind of like figure out like how you're going to help this person. And deep down inside, you're not equipped to do it, but you have to find a way to figure it out, because you did this because you really want to do this. It wasn't just like, a check the box kind of thing. So that's the negative side of it, because kids will have real issues. and it's not just like helping them fill out their FAFSA for a college application.
That's right.
Yeah, that's a very poignant and real thing to mention. I think, when we look at mentorship, there are so many layers when you're interacting with the student. And as your student starts to develop a trust in you, as they start to confide in you certain things about their life, like you said, certain mental health issues, possible homelessness, financial insecurity, it may be a thing that seems almost insurmountable for you as a mentor. And it is important to just champion and advocate for them. And I think in a formalized mentoring structure, especially right now, and even with Imentor, we know that so many of the students in our program live below the poverty line. So we already come into developing and designing our program and our curriculum with awareness of the backgrounds and experiences and the needs of our students. So we already say, look, based on where they are, we need to think about how we develop the resources to support them. And so many of our program managers, who are the ones who are kind of the key driving factors of the mentor-mentee relationship, they are trained college counselors and they are youth development specialists, but they're also deeply embedded in the school culture. So if your mentee, mentions that they're experiencing a grave mental health issue, and you're not really unsure as to how to, navigate that situation, your program manager is going to be there with you, because I understand it's very difficult, and you don't want to overstep a boundary that could either trigger your mentee or put you in a possible predicament as well. It is a very fine boundary. But in thinking about some of the more formalized structures, especially here at Imentor, really identify that. And even just earlier today, we had a training on how to support LGBTQIA plus students, because we know that's such a prevalent thing that we want to support our students on. And, just with how we think about the challenges, we're trying to be proactive. We really try to identify what the possible challenges are and what the negatives could be, and what the mentor's perceptions of those challenges could be. And we're always open to hearing what mentors have to say, because they are the ones who are going to be interacting with the mentees every so often. So, like you said, those challenges can be very difficult, and those can be very hard conversations. But even where we are right now, we're able to equip our mentors with the tools and resources to have those conversations. I've had many difficult, like heart-wrenching conversations with my mentee, where he's expressed to me so many things about his personal life, his family life, and I'm like, wow, this is heavy. This is hard. This is not fun. And when we think about mentorship, it's kind of like this: we're gonna have this eat, pray, love experience, this freedom rise experience. It's gonna be, the next blockbuster movie. But no, there's gonna be some very uncomfortable situations. But I think when you overcome those uncomfortable situations and you look over the valley, you're like, wow, this is actually what it means to establish such a poignant relationship with the mentee. Because when your mentee's problems are being worked on, or hopefully even solved completely, now they're like, I have a mentor that I can confide in, a mentor that's actively supporting me. So those challenges we definitely think about, we're always working towards, because we want to equip our mentors with the tools and resources to have those conversations. And should anything happen, like, we as an organization are always there.
So I am going to follow up with a question about understanding the preparation that one needs in order to be a formal and also informal mentor, because I think that, mentorship, as we are unpacking or becoming an OG, it can work both ways, and it can work both ways. And, I can, every time I look at Engy, I try not to tear up, because now he's like God, he and his wife are godparents to my daughter. That is how the relationship has evolved. And so that came as a result of being informal, being very open, me being scared, him latching on to me and never letting go. That's the other side. And so when you have that, what are the steps that both of you can think of in terms of both the informal and formal process that one needs to think about before they actually commit to dealing
Mhm.
specifically with a young person. Because as an adult, we kind of can deal with, the heartbreak, the people not responding to us. But in particularly as it relates to our young people, what are some tips that you both can offer?
I'll kick it off. I think for me, believe it or not, I was actually really shy and insecure, and like I think like even like my work environment, like you can see that young person that's nervous, especially like that young person that looks like black and white, right? I've seen that, and I identified that, and I've learned to like help them in a way like it's not condescending. Like first, I think one of the steps like you have to understand like you don't want to talk down to someone. So one of the tools that I use, I'm like, hey, I realize you did this wrong. This PowerPoint wrong. Let me tell you a story. When I did this wrong, I got yelled at when I was your age. Like identifying and like let them know like, look, I was just like you when you're your age. Like don't be scared to get on that phone, right? And then having patience to like actually teach them, not just say do this, but teaching them what they're doing, what's the end result, and then finding opportunities, no matter how small they might be, for them to grow. Maybe it's having them set up that like that client meeting because they've never got an opportunity to do it. Like it's low risk, but for them it makes a huge difference. That's the informal way I think about it at work. Like you shouldn't be that manager that's a slave driver. It's like, oh, you got to do this. You should be like encouraging people. Like your job should be to like cultivate this young person where they feel comfortable, where they can do your job if you're not there, kind of thing.
Mm-hmm.
Now, the more structured, like Imentor, all the things I said, it's like you gotta understand going into this every day. It's not gonna be like roses and the student like we talked about this like every student's not gonna become like a 4.0 valedictorian.
Right.
That they're gonna have some challenges, and you gotta be prepared. Come with an open mind, open heart. Like there may be some challenges that this person might need me for. And they may not even want to talk about it, but just want to talk to you about something. Just having someone outside of like the immediate family circle or friend circle that's not going to judge them for what's going on. Just like listen, and when the time is right, offer advice. Just be a patient ear. Like if anyone like I'm going to say this: if anyone joins iMentor as a check the box reason and not for like I want to help, it's the wrong platform. Because I don't think because I've been an iMentor, my wife's been an iMentor. Like you got to go into this thing like I want to do good, but I know there are going to be days that are going to be hard, and take the good and the bad.
Thank you for mentioning that. That is super important. Like, even when we're thinking about engaging and interacting with our mentees, it's not going to be easy. And the one thing that I always say whenever I'm talking to people who express an interest in becoming a mentor is do not come into the relationship expecting your mentee to be a C-level executive. They're not a CEO. They're not a managing director. They're none of that. They are still teenagers. They are going through a very critically developmental and transformational stage in their lives. They're still forging their identity. They're going to be going through a myriad of experiences that are going to shape them in the future. So it's important for us as mentors to really come in with an open mind and an open heart and just a will to see them succeed. And even if your mentee does not go down the same direct path in terms of industries and life choices as you, as long as those choices are healthy and in their best interest and for them to succeed, that is already a level of success that we want them to get to. And even in the formalized mentoring approach that we do at iMentor, where our mentors and mentees talk with each other once a week online and then attend those monthly pair events, this is also a space just for the pairs to talk with each other, but also have conversations that are not normally centered as a topic of conversation for our students. Even something, for example, like, oh, what was your favorite club or organization to join in college? That may seem very infinitesimal and very minute, but that already paints a picture for what our mentees should be expecting when they step into their post-secondary environment. And for our students, it's really important to think about those formalized approaches as we help guide them, through this duration of their relationship with their mentors. And even like you mentioned, Anita, how some mentors are like, well, it kind of feels like I was just forced on my mentee. We don't really know what to do. But again, approaching that relationship with a level of appreciation, openness, and candor will help out so much. Like the first month that I met my mentee, the first few minutes, I was like, all right, he probably does not think I'm cool at all. He probably thinks he probably just want to go home and go about his business and just like not even pay attention to me. But then I was like, actually, let me figure something out. Where are you from? And he was like, oh, I mean, I live in Rochdale. And I was like, wait, Rochdale off Baisley. I live in Rosedale. And he was like, you live in Rosedale? The moment he said that, that was it. So that relationship right there was pointed because, again, I approached it with a level of candor and a level of authenticity. A lot of times mentors are like, I have to be super formal, super, dressed up and buttoned up. No, shoulders down, come as authentically yourself as possible, because it really does help to make such a huge difference. Like, my mentee clowns me all the time, but it's out of an appreciation. He thinks I'm the most uncool person on the planet, but there's a level of like depth that we have in our relationship. So just even with the formalized approach, that formality helps with the almost informal interactions that happen. And we go to the movies, we hang out, on occasion with permission, we FaceTime just to be like, hey, how's classes going? Just wanted to check in. So it really does help a lot with just the formal aspect and how the informal aspect really do come together in such an amazing way.
You have anything else you wanted to add, Engy?
No, I had a similar story. I think my first, match with Imentor, was a guy from from the Bronx. And if you know anything about Brooklyn, New York, politics, like, oh, I'm from Brooklyn, he's from the Bronx. We'll have nothing in common. And he starts talking about his breakdancing team, and just like tell me more. Like, I'm not a breakdancer, but I like it. Like, I like hip hop. And he said something like, yeah, we put this breakdancing thing in the summer, and then we got sponsors from Nike. Like, how'd you do that? Like, well, I just kept calling them, and then they gave us some money to you realize you created a business, right? And his eyes just like, that you really created a business in high school. Like, it was really dope. And he's just like, are you serious? And then he opened up about where he was living, his grandmother was raised. I'm like, my grandmother. And then it was like off to the races after that.
Yeah. And I mean, I can think of some, really wonderful stories, but, I don't want to keep us here all night. But just know that I have this real high affinity just for, seeing the success at all levels, right? So starting with young people, where I have this, this thing, but the thing come from, which I discovered because it was actually done to me. I want to actually give a shout out and also a rest in peace in heaven to Mr. Keith Sally. He was my OG. And anybody from Brownsville, Brooklyn, also from Flatbush, had an opportunity to play basketball with him. I was his only girl that played with him during the time. But he had a number of other young women that, he brought us along to go to sporting events, to, Broadway plays. And this was somebody that, I met as a result of dating someone in high school who played basketball. Who, when he went away to high school, I kind of stuck around and, was still trying to figure out that life. And then it was connecting the dots with someone who was genuine. He was a man. We were young women and young men. There was nothing inappropriate, but he supported us. I mean, we used to sit on his stoop, come by. We used to play ball. And he supported us at all levels until he moved. And then, eventually he wound up, passing away. But it was one of those things that I never forgot it. Like, in terms of someone being genuine, someone filling in the gap, someone, where you could just call, write letters. Back then we were writing letters, or pick up the phone just to ask questions about my boyfriend, my job, all those things that exist. He was there for us. Mind you, he had his own family. And so this was in addition to, him supporting a number of young people. So for me, that's where I get it from. He was a gap filler for me. And so when I think about, the why, those who choose to, to connect with my vibe, my spirit, my flow, That's the reason why.
Mm.
And it's never been, again, a formal process for me. It's because I just, I feel like that's a part of what I am supposed to be doing.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's why I continue to do so. So.
No, I just want to mention I absolutely love that. Even the point that you mentioned about asking questions. I mean, I vividly remember when I was talking with my mentee, and he was like, "I don't know what to do after high school. Like, I'm just gonna I'm gonna be a model." And I was like, "All right, Nicholas, we're gonna talk this through." And I asked him like a few questions, just like, "All right, so what do you like doing?" He's like, "I love helping people. People come to me for advice all the time. Like, I talk to them about their relationships, whatnot." I'm like, "Okay, so you like helping people. What I want you to do is go home and do some research on professions that help people." And our following meeting, he came back and he was like, "Yo, what you know about social work?" And I was like, "Well, let me tell you something about social work." And so many people that I love, my best friend is a social worker. Like, shouts to all my social workers out there. And he was like, "Yeah, I love this profession. I want to actually make helping people a thing." And like you said, asking those questions, and now he's going to your college to study social work.
Right.
And it's just absolutely incredible. So I just really want to double tap on that.
Yeah. So we are coming up close on the hour, and I want to really, dive into, a couple of tips, right? So first, I'll start with Engy about, what tips can you provide, for those, again, who are looking to become a mentor, informal, and OG. And then I want to finish up with, some of the immediately needs that Imentor is now looking for specifically, in terms of, their business needs for this time and going forward. So I want to start with Engy, and also Stephen, provide like 2 really good tips about, becoming an OG.
Of course.
Yeah, like I said, I think the informal piece is just being patient, being open. Oftentimes if the younger the person, they may not be as willing to approach you, but if you see some hesitation, if you see something and someone, just approach them, like just start asking questions, right? What are you interested in? Like I do that with my little cousins and my nieces and nephews and like their family, but I still try to serve as a mentor for them. In your everyday work, like, everyone has, junior staff, associates, analysts, and they're trying to navigate this thing called life. Whether do they want to stay at the firm that they're with, or is that a project that they want to jump on? What do they think about graduate school? Like, there's opportunities for you to be an informal mentor.
Mm-hmm.
And formal mentor, this is like a nice little layup for Imentor. You have things like Imentor, you have things like America Needs You, New York Needs You. Like there's a lot of organizations. I was a posse scholar, so you can volunteer at the posse. There's tons of opportunities, like if you really want to do it, that you can Google and seek out. And I'm sure like there's someone in your inner circle that's already a board member of a nonprofit that's helping young individuals, and just latch on, be a volunteer, just figure out what you're passionate about. The one thing I would say, like, just be passionate and be like really genuine about doing it.
Yeah, I absolutely love that. I'm actually going to give the advice that our students say. And the main thing is do not be so uptight, y'all. Like, again, shoulders down, like, be authentic, because they can feel if you're like being a little bit rigid about it, like, they will clown you for it. So approach relationship with a level of candor and authenticity, and they will reciprocate it. I think that really helps everything else fall into place so much. And even when I engage with my mentee, we would be talking about everything else beside the actual topic at hand for the event. And our PM would be like, "Stephen, Nicholas, the activity." We're like, "Oh, wait a minute." But again, it really just helps make the rest of the relationship come to life. So that's like the major piece, I can give. But also, again, come in with the genuine want to see your mentee succeed. Please do not come into this relationship or into this volunteer opportunity just so you can pad your resume, because it is going to be incongruent to the success and needs of your mentee. So that's the 2 main key pieces of advice I can give. But in terms of what our needs are as an organization, so we are currently seeking mentors for the upcoming fall semester. I know everything related to school openings with the pandemic has kind of made timing a little bit like shifty, but we as an organization still do need mentors. The link is at the bottom of the scrolling bar. It is imentor.org. So if you are able, willing, and interested to participate as a mentor, I will say, as a mentor myself, it is an absolutely remarkable, life-changing, incredible experience. You know, we can talk way more about it, and I can literally give another hour-long info session about Imentor, but I do not want to hold y'all for too long. But again, if you want to get involved as a mentor in the program, please, follow the link below, and I can also provide my contact information about how to get involved. But yeah, this is what our needs are.
So thank you both. And in wrapping up, again, I want to, sincerely thank you both for, taking time out of your schedule to, just unpack a little bit about the importance of mentoring. I also want to shout out, Engy, because he's been on almost 2 weeks in a row with me, sharing his experience and, different ways. And it's nice to be able to pull on someone, because now I look up to Engy, and some of the things that, he's accomplishing, even though, we have this long-term standing relationship. So I actually want to shout him out. And also I want to shout out everybody for taking time for, checking in. This will be, on replay at 11/3/75. And I also want to thank Stephen for connecting with me, and now probably being like a long-term friend, supporting, the needs of Imentor. And I just want to see if you guys have any final thoughts before we close this show.
Be a mentor.
I'll say, for everyone on the call, just make sure to take care of yourselves. I know it's, very tumultuous, unstable times right now. It is very much taking a big toll on us in many different ways. So take care of yourselves, check in on your loved ones, treat yourselves as well, practice self-care. Always make sure to be the best that you can for yourself, even if it's working or resting, whatever you need to do, always do that, because, this is where we are right now. And we want to make sure that you all amazing, lovely people, are being the best that you can be.
Just want to say thank you, Anita, once again for allowing me to be a part of this. I do think mentorship is super important. I'm a product of numerous mentors that I'm forever indebted to. So this is a serious topic, especially for our communities. I think that people should really take an introspective look around the people around them, the students around them, the people in their lives, and really consider how they're giving back, especially during these times. Thank you again.
Yes, thank you, Anita, so much.
And wrapping up, I will say it doesn't take much to be an OG. Not at all. Not at all.
That's it.
Nothing much. Take your heart and put it out the door, because, I've been in this now for a couple of years. I don't want to say back here, but it's an enjoyable, hard experience, but it's super rewarding when you have, the dedication and you are willing and committed to see and guide someone on their journey of success. Yes. On that note, I want to send you all virtual kisses. Thank you for checking us out. Please be sure to check out, Imentor, visit imentor.org. And I actually want to thank Reigns International for lending us Engy, even though he's been all these years. Shout out to Reigns International for supporting this event this evening, and also Imentor. Please check us out. My business page is 11/3/75. We will be having a number of more business discussions and events. Please like us, subscribe, follow us on all social media platforms, and we thank you very much for joining us this evening. Sending you virtual kisses.
Yes, thank you so much. Yes, take care.
Take good care. Thank you.
Thank you.